afternoon. This is our first meeting after the high holidays, and also since the war in Israel began. Now, this session is being recorded, so please make sure, just to speak one at a time. And note that all your comments are recorded as well. Okay. Part of some people, approached me in the last few days asking, will I be talking about Israel and the situation and what's going on there? And my answer was no. And I might be wrong, and in that sense, I do want to open it up to, if people do have either questions or issues that they want to bring up that are concerning Israel, because I do understand, I was told by a few people that they feel sort of like bombarded by media and by and can you just close the door, please? By friends and and their kids or grandkids at university campuses, so much misinformation, anti-Israel, anti-Jewish information, not understanding what's going on in many regards. In terms of information, also of information about, we get to a situation like this. People want to know more about the basics of what's happening in Israel, how we got to this situation. So I was approached by a few people that wanted me to address that. So I will address it according, maybe to your questions or your guidance, if that. My plan was to start talking about the course, which is Judaism Beyond the Basics, and to be honest, I wanted to do that not just because this was the plan, and not because I'm, God forbid, ignoring the event. Okay, Josie Sterling, you have a lot of noise coming from your. But also because I really wanted to study Torah with you and study like the basic foundations of Judaism, which is at the hardcore. This is what they are after. This is what they want to destroy. They started the attack on Israel on Simchat Torah, trying to annihilate our Torah. Sort of like this is like a struggle against the core values of our Judaism, of our beliefs. And if we study Torah and we study the origins of where we came from and what we do and why we do these things, this is going to be the best answer to the terror and to this attempt to destruct our people. So I have these two notions in mind, and in a way they are conflicting, because one is like to talk more about current events, more about what's going on, and one is sort of like putting it aside and saying let's dive more into our traditions, into the history, etc. They don't have to contradict also, because in the long run, one of the classes, one of the topics that we're going to discuss here is Israel and the land of Israel, and our right to the land of Israel, and also how the relationship between our Jewish religion and heritage and Israel and the land of Israel. It's a big part of it. How did that come about? And what are all the issues that when you are a Jew, what is your just as we have obligations towards Shabbat, or keeping kosher or praying, we have our obligations towards Israel as well. So that is not the way I planned on opening today, because I wanted straight away to start teaching. But I do recognize the voices that were brought up to me today and in previous days, and want to open it up for either leading questions, not so much comments, because it's not so much other, but questions or things that do want to be called and clarified. And also, since my mother is here and is in Israel as well, so it could also be an opportunity. Although I did not prepare her for this, but since you already know, my mother could speak whenever is asked without preparing. So we could also, turn to her and ask her to share some of her thoughts on what's going on. We have a live guest from Israel, actually from the south of Israel, where a lot of the attacks happen not very close to where they are, but not far as well. Yes, George.
I personally would love both, but I'm actually very, very interested in both issues. I'd like to see the course go in its regular format, and then after that, a discussion period for which people could stay or leave as they wish for some allocated period of time. That would be my vote if I had a vote.
You definitely have a vote, but for time purposes, that will be more difficult, because we have the hour and 15 minutes, give and take, to dedicate for one topic. Yes, Peter.
I think that most people reading the announcement would, a secular approach would be more attractive. And if we didn't have the problem in the Middle East, then you would really not go into the Torah versus the war. But I think they're both important, but I think that the secular is the more attractive to the bigger group.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Yes.
Why don't we just take the vote and see which approach people would want to take?
Well, I would also not necessarily devote, we could devote today to, what's going on in Israel, and next week go more in our, traditional way. Right?
The situation, I think, as a whole, I'm sure all of us are bombarded by what is going on in Israel, from the internet, from television, from talking to each other. I think we're all on overload. I wish we would allow the Israeli government to handle their problems and not talk it to death, because this is what happens with every war in Israel. It gets talked, and the longer it lasts, tie up Israel's hands, how to react, Israel loses.
Okay, and that's a very good comment. And by the way, I was not about to discuss politics, not to discuss, the war in the sense like, is Israel doing the right thing, not the right thing. That's definitely not only it's something that would never happen in my classes. It's more like the history, the background to to Israel, to the right over Israel, to more foundational things, the covenant that we have with the land of Israel, but also to try in a more modern perspective to understand, what happened that brought us to this point. But I definitely agree with you, and also I have to say it's less of my area of expertise. I'm more, hands-on the Judaica issues.
I think that was my interest. I'm not so interested. I think we're all bombarded with all kinds of perspectives, but I think to hear the situation from an Israeli rabbi, I think is a unique opportunity to hear to understand a little bit of that perspective. Someone who's lived and understands the situation from those two attributes. That's what I would be interested in. I mean, who knows? You know, I mean, you listen to CNN and all that stuff, and I agree completely. I think the United States should butt out and let Israel do it.
Yeah. Yes, Jeff, thanks.
I would be interested if you just worked it into the curriculum as to what a Judaic response is to this type of attack from a Torah perspective. So keep in mind with what you intended for the course, but touch on the subject of how Judaism would react to this type of.
It's okay. Very good. And I'm sure we will get to touch on that all the time. That's a good point.
And
Yes.
I want to ask you, as rabbi, as teacher, and as knowing Israel and your course material, what do you think is the best thing to teach right now?
Yeah.
What's your opinion of that?
Yeah, I'm also split in that sense. Okay, so maybe first we will hear a little bit from my mother, who is in Israel, is on the ground, is sort of like, and has been a participant of our previous classes. You know, just if you could say hello to us, how you're doing these days, and what would you like to say to an American community far away, as a former American and a current Israeli for the last 55 years, which is the larger part of it. Although she still has a very strong English accent when she speaks Hebrew. So.
Well, you're sort of putting me on the spot, but I mean, I certainly am capable of speaking, you know, without preparation. I'm actually right now in a very bad place mentally, I must tell you. And because I'm very pessimistic about what's happening right now. I have my daughter, I have two daughters, but one daughter is a Reform rabbi, and she has two sons, which means my grandsons are on one in the northern front and one in the southern front. And we were talking as she was driving back from her pulpit in Haifa. And I said to her, I wish I were a rabbi now, because then I would have to be more upbeat in terms of, you know, giving comfort and talking about God and with God's help. And I'm not there. I'm very afraid. I'm afraid of what's going to be in the future. I write a blog regularly, and I'm even embarrassed at how pessimistic my blog is now. And I see no hope at the end of the tunnel. And I'm very nervous about, you know, about what's going to be. And what is wonderful, and I know that your congregation, Tzvi, has really been wonderful. Ariella keeps on telling me that she's buying this for the soldiers and that for the soldiers, and I know that there are contributions coming from you. But I mean, it's all a drop in the bucket. I mean, there's no way the costs, both economic and also mental costs, that we're going to have to be dealing with in the future. And I don't think this is going to be a quick war. When we go in, there's going to be a lot of losses. God forbid that it will be some of my own family, God forbid. I'm very nervous about it. And I must tell you that I'm echoing what a lot of people think. So I'm sorry if I can't give you hope and be upbeat. And there's a congregation that wants me and my husband to speak in Australia, from Melbourne. They'd like me, because we spent some time in their congregation. And I don't know what we're going to say to them. I mean, I just cannot be upbeat right now. So I don't know if that's the message you wanted me to give right now, but if you want to know where I am now, that's where I am. And not in a good place. Although we're not in physical danger. I mean, about once a day we have to run into our shelter, but that's, you know, that's par for the course. And I must tell you that our community, it's a small community, and I'm on a lot of lists. I'm amazed at how people are getting together. There are some empty homes in Omer. People are giving their homes over to, people are tracing down these homes. People are bringing people who are, how would you say, Mufune Asa, people who are being evacuated.
Refugees
People are
from
being evacuated all over the country, and they're being brought into our communities. And there are lists, actual lists, what we can bring them and what we can give them, starting with basics, like even toothbrushes. I mean, they have come with literally the clothes on their backs. And so this is the volunteer. I should say the only thing that I see as a ray of light is the volunteerism that's going on, and the togetherness in the country from all over. There's a lot of bitterness, but there is a lot of togetherness, and there's a feeling that we have to take care of each other, which I think is Jews are Arevim Zelas, that we're all responsible for each other. Plus the fact that we do feel the what's coming from abroad. We really feel that, and it's very positive. In Hebrew, it's called chizuk. We get, strength and comfort from the fact that people do care about us. And the same people who are criticizing Israel are now out there, not everyone, of course, but are now out there with us and understand what we're going through. And that is comforting. So I can end with somewhat a positive note.
Right. Yes, Naomi.
I have a question about the children and their resumption of school activities. And is that happening or is that not happening?
I can tell you just in terms of our own community, as of tomorrow, the 2 to 3 year olds, that have their special they will be going back from 7:30 in the morning till 4:30. Elementary school is not starting yet, and that one of the reasons is because there are no shelters in our community. So you cannot start a school if there's no place for people to run. The preschool is starting.
From October 7th, hasn't been any schools?
No. And the preschool is going to start. Up till now, there have been some volunteer people taking care of, let's say if you have, 2 doctors in the family and they have to go out to work, right? It's not a matter of someone being able to stay home. So there are a lot of volunteers taking care of the children and or signing up if you say what your needs are, and they'll find something for you. Find some childcare, but the regular childcare is only going to resume in our community. I can only speak for our community tomorrow for a very limited group, not for elementary school.
So this is probably for the majority of the South, including Beersheba and.
Of course.
Which is a huge city, so it's like, this is like probably 30% of Israel's population is still not back to school.
By the way, some of you may have met Tzvika's son Uriah, and so what he's involved with, he has volunteering with 10 and 11th and 12th grades. I spoke to him yesterday, and he's working with them, trying to help them prepare for their matriculation exams for their Bagriyot. But he says it's very difficult. They're totally traumatized, and this is a population that has been evacuated more than once. This is not the first time they've been evacuated. So this is a population that has been evacuated more than once in their lifetimes, and it's almost becoming a pattern for them. And what's going to happen with these kids in the future, I don't know.
Any other questions? Yes, Larry.
I've been around long enough to feel that Israel will take care of business as it needs to do. I'm confident in that. What really worries me now is to see what has been happening on American campuses and the total anti-Semitism, and it gets reflected not only in America but in other European countries. it's mind-boggling. It really makes you see we've been the brunt of this for thousands of years, and it just continues. And what's happened? I'm hopeful that there'll be some kind of reckoning going on in the American campuses as I read about it. But that really worries me. It's awful.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a great concern for all of us. I want to say in that regards that we do have a very active WhatsApp group of the synagogue. I don't know if you know a lot of Americans. I'm less familiar with WhatsApp, especially the ones that use iPhones, but it's also an app that's on iPhone. You could download it and join our group, and there are different updates all the time there, and people sort of like referring to petitions against, this university or that university, calling maybe to the dismissal of a professor or calling for action. So if you join that WhatsApp group, there are already 65 members of our community just for CMT members. So if you join that and you're part of that, you're able to also get some support from one another. We're sending Heidi's very active there as well, sending information and helping us also how to answer and how to deal with these issues, because this is a big part of the war is in social media and public opinion in that regard. Okay, so if you do not fill up your name and email here, please do. Actually, Naomi, can you also add all the people that are on Zoom? Yes, Peter?
May I go back to what you said?
Sure.
The Muslim world has been setting their PR sites for years. And it's something that I don't know how we can combat that. They get tens of thousands in the city streets in front of the universities. And we get
yes, it's true, and I think that what we used to say is, we need to separate, is anti-Zionism. It doesn't mean that they're anti-Semitic, etc. I think today it's all clear, blunt anti-Semitism.
They don't want us.
There are no more borders.
They don't want us.
Yeah, and that's what we maybe at the beginning like to sort of like delude ourselves and say, they just have an issue with Israel. It's not, but now we know it's blunt, open anti-Semitism, and it needs to be, also regarded in that way. Yes.
Jerry, I'd like to say also, it's not just universities. I have grandkids in the Manhattan Beach School District, and there are overt anti-Semitic acts.
Right.
You're probably familiar with what's
there
going
was a
on.
letter written to them, and I also added my comments to be heard to, the heads of the school and the district. So they also got a response from congregation near Tamid. And this is something we are all going to have to deal with. And yeah, it's a big, yes.
One thing we as Jews have always done is given money to support institutions indiscriminately. When Muslim countries or the princes or the sultans donate money to a university, it's for Islamic courses. We have given money disproportionately. I think I read statistics somewhere, only 6% of the Jewish population donate to only Jewish causes, meaning 94% of the Jews in this country, rich Jews, support this anti-Semitism by giving money indiscriminately to universities and other organizations. And I think we have to just withdraw our money and give it only to Jewish causes and let the world know that we are no longer supporting hate that's just generation after generation killing our children.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yes.
Yes, Rabbi, this is actually, I sent you a note this morning, and it was this question about the collective punishment that the press is saying about Israel affecting Gaza, and then the Hamas using human shields. And so that is, in effect, gives, I think, gives Hamas a recruiting tool. The more Gazans we kill, the more positive PR they get. And I don't know how we're going to deal with it or how Israel's going to deal with it, but it seems to be a real issue. And,
yeah, this is definitely, this is part of the Hamas propaganda that is sort of like it's saying that it's okay to slaughter and butcher, Jewish people, as long, and Israel has maybe, the right to attack Hamas, but if Hamas is defending itself behind babies, human shields, okay, so then it's sort of like you have to, it's the Geneva Accord steps in, and we all have to sort of like stop this a very hypocritical view that the whole world has been advocating. Actually, it's starting to get very warm here. Maybe someone knows how to. Yeah. Because I think someone played around with the Larry would know what to do. Yeah, and in many ways, I think this is also part of the war to lay the moral ground for Israel now to be able to act in any way that's necessary to completely annihilate and destroy Hamas. And because if we again allow this rhetoric of you're hurting civilians, it needs to be clear. Israel's not interested ever in hurting civilians. Israel's not after civilians. They're not doing the horrendous things that the Hamas do. Okay, but if this is the strategy that Hamas uses to hide inside hospitals and schools and mosques, to fire their arms and to launch their attacks, if Israel doesn't want this to happen again, it has to go after the terrorists where they are and where they are hiding. And it's very unfortunate and very sad that they're doing that, but there's nothing Israel could do at this point.
And there is an analysis or a comparison. When America dropped an atom bomb on Japan, there were a lot of innocent civilians that were killed, but it was for the good
stop the war
to end the war and get over this.
And just imagine how far Israel is away from that solution. Israel's not even
do that, but
Israel's not even thinking about that kind of solution because that seems okay. I think I don't know how that would be perceived by the world. What would happen to Israel if something like that? So Israel is doing like much. Less and more pinpoint
but we did it to save lives.
Yeah, no, I understand the concept, but that's not even on the table in that sense. Well, that's I don't want to get into politics or telling the Israelis how to lead their war. That's not the issue here. But again, the double standard of the world is what's upsetting here and needs to be called out. Yes.
I'm Joan Davidson. I'm glad to be back into Temple Board. I haven't been a member for several years. I joined again yesterday.
Oh,
my son's children come here for Hebrew school.
Oh, good.
Here. And my grandson was born mitzvah 2 years ago. Adam Davidson will be born mitzvah in the year.
Oh, good.
So I'm obviously very upset about what's going on. I served 8 years on the Palos Verdes School Board. And we currently have a member on the school board. I'm going to be very blunt because there's no time not to be blunt. He's Muslim and is politically supporting people who are tweeting Israeli hate every day. This is described. And lately she just gave $2,000 to Sam Rasool from Virginia.
Who?
Sarah Dean. Sam Rasool, Rasoul. And if you go to his Facebook page, people are saying, take this off. It's not. Okay. So I'm going to the school board meeting tonight. And because today Sarah Dean posted, we have to have an immediate ceasefire. And I'm not in favor of that, especially hearing the woman who released yesterday explain where they were held in the tunnels. They can't do that. Israel has to protect themselves. They didn't start this.
Yeah.
And now, yes, we are in a terrible situation. However, I want to be very careful how I say this tonight, and I will be, because I know how to be correct.
Yeah.
But I think she should stay out of international politics and then getting into this national fight, because this is serious, and I am aware of what happened in Manhattan Beach a week or so ago. I don't want that to happen here. I want the school board to put a policy immediately about hate speech, which is the most important thing.
Right, but I think that message is very crucial. I mean, if you're going there today and saying that, you know, anyone who's a representative of the board should completely avoid and not engage in citizen politics, because it could backfire then very quickly, and it's inciting hate speech. And people need to understand that. And I actually plan on meeting her as well, and talking to her about that as well in a more private manner. But I might have to do that quicker than what I thought.
But my greater goal is that we can get a council of clergy in this community together. I did thank Rabbi yesterday from the temple.
Yes, I did as well. Yeah.
But I think that would be really meaningful. And I know that you joined last week with one of the churches. Josh was here.
Right, no, it wasn't me, but I'm actually meeting today a Reverend Shelby.
There is a Dawn Unity
Group, yes.
group here.
Yeah.
That is the conglomeration of all the church people from various religious organizations.
Right.
That work together for this very purpose.
Right.
Individually.
And we're
not gonna
hosting
be as effective as
a meeting of that next month at near Tamid, and I'm part of that as well. Yes.
Well, I just have a question. The thing that appalled me in this movie brought up already is the Jewish co-eds and other children not permitted so much. How do we disseminate true information to them? This has been in the planning for decades and decades to really destroy America, the Western values, and the Jews everywhere. What they don't realize is that after the Jews, they're coming for you, they're coming for us. And so how do we get these, I'm targeting specifically the Jewish co-eds, that age group and so forth, or younger, to counteract this false news that's being printed? How do we reach them? I mean, parents who have a child in college who is Jewish, holding, kill it, the Jews, and destroy Israel and so forth. How do we reach them because of all the indoctrination that they've already had? They just are not thinking clearly. They've lost the moral compass. Is there a way? Is there some way or some organization or something?
Stand with us. Stand with us has been training college students how to answer all this rhetoric for decades. Is everyone familiar with Stand With Us?
It's a very good organization, and I think also that everyone, should really try to engage now with the people who are not sure exactly what's going on. They're like, oh, my heart is with you, and but it's a complicated issue. It's terrible what's going on in Israel, but if we put it in context, like the stupid remark that the UN secretary made yesterday, in context, we can understand this attack. So these are the kind of people that I think they're not Hamas, they're not Hamas supporters, they don't see only the Palestinian side. These are people that we need to turn to and work on. When we start hearing a comment from someone like this, saying, my heart is with you, or how's it going these days, I think we need to pause. This is an opportunity for us to pitch and tell them, first of all, I'm not okay. things are not good. Okay, as a Jew, I don't feel safe. My grandkids, I don't feel safe now in their schools, in their universities. If you talk to the feelings of people, okay, less about facts, but about feelings, and and then you could just state very clearly what the Hamas did was attack innocent people, okay, and went into the territory that's Israel. Okay, what Israel is doing is trying to go after the terrorists that did that and make sure that they don't do this again. It's we are not after babies, after women, after children, etc. Hamas is using them as human shields, and we just need to understand to tell people and bring it also from a very emotional state and have them identify with us and with our pain on a personal level, and then the more human it is, the more they can have a human face behind that response, the more I think it will get to people's hearts. And again, I'm not talking about the people, don't even try to argue with the people that are brainwashed, the people that are standing there at the demonstrations, they're like, away with Israel, away with Jews, etc. We're not after them. We're after the people that are not sure exactly where they are. They still have their human decency, but because of the strong propaganda of the other side, they could be swayed either way in that sense.
And is it okay to reach out to our non-Jewish friends?
Absolutely. This is, I think, is exactly the target population that I think we need to return to. I think that's exactly is sort of like have them over, invite them over for coffee when you see them on the street for your, for the morning walk. Wherever there is, in a club here or there, wherever there is that situation, and they're asking you, how are you doing? You could stop. You could be an advocate for, for the Jewish people, for Israel, and for yourself, for your position. I think the more we position that in the public sphere, the more we're able to, to sway these people and have them on our side. Because it's a very difficult uphill battle. Yes, ma'am.
I'm concerned about, I was, my friend texted me this, she's not Jewish, but she's taking conversion classes. And I got this whole 2.5 hours, I got through the first half hour. It's an interview of Norman Finkelstein by Katie Helper. And those are Jews talking like Israel's doing a Holocaust now, and depriving them of food, water, and electricity is killing them. So how are we not doing genocide? And these are Jews. And she's sending me this and I haven't finished. But how do I answer that? I don't know what else is on here, but so far it's pretty horrible.
Right. So there's it could be explained by there's a historical phenomena over history with self-hating Jews. Okay, it's not just slogan. Okay, it's something very well known of Jews throughout history. It happened also, during Middle Ages. Sometimes they were forced to convert, and some people willingly converted because there's a very famous, rabbi somewhere in Spain in the I think the 12th or the 13th century. I forgot the name. That after during before the Spanish Inquisition, but like there was 100 years of pogroms and and before the Jews were expelled, and he saw what is being done to the Jews, and at a certain point decided this is God's plan. Okay, God is and he stopped being a rabbi. He became a priest. He became an aide to the Pope. Okay, and he helped him start going after Jews. And at first people thought he's doing it because he's intimidated, but then it became an ideology for him. Someone just asked me before the class here started, there's the group that's called Nituei Kauta, extreme Haredi groups. They're very black hats, they're very extremely observant, but they support the Palestinians and Hamas and Iran. They're welcomed in Iran, they visit there. They have offices in New York and Jerusalem. I don't know why Israel is letting that happen there. But they every time there are elections in Israel, they burn their ID cards, and because we don't participate in the elections, and they side with the Palestinians all the time. And there's also in modern time, there sort of scholars, okay, that feel that the Jews are, if something's wrong in the world, it's our fault. Like, what did we do to create this? Okay, and it's sort of like that Jewish guilt feeling, we all have that inside of us to some extent, but not to the extent that it becomes like a sickness. Okay, so it's not, I know this Professor Finkelstein, etc. It's part of a whole. It's not the majority, thank God, but it is a problem that we have as a Jewish people, and it could be explained as that phenomena. And
so it's self-hating, but even if I say that, they come back. It's well, you are taking away their food and water.
No, we're not taking anyone's food and water away. That's an upfront lie. That's a complete lie. Hamas is in war with Israel now. Okay, Israel has very clear demands: return the hostages, surrender, okay, and give us the terrorists that created the attack that murdered 1,400 people, okay, and ruined Israel. And Israel has nothing to do with the Gaza border, okay, and there'll be, supplies, and Israel is not deliberately preventing that from people. Actually, Israel even gave humanitarian aid trucks the ability to go in and provide that. Okay.
The headlines are so amped up.
The headlines are completely different, and they're up in their blunt lies. So that's the way to deal with that.
From in or out of Gaza, like they're keeping it open.
People who want to leave Gaza are very welcome. There are two problems preventing them. One is the Hamas. If the Hamas is left alone in Gaza, they need the civilians to protect them, so they don't let them leave. And the other problem is in the Rafah border in the south of Gaza is Egypt. Egypt does not want to get the Palestinians. Surprise, surprise. Okay, nobody does.
No Arab country.
Right, so Israel is the only country that's willing to have the Palestinians stay, and even give them a state, and even give them, an autonomy and all of that. Israel is the only country that's willing in the world to do that. Okay, give them work. The economical situation of the Palestinians is far better than Arabs in, I'm not talking about, Abu Dhabi and places like that, but but I'm talking about, Egypt, Syria, Jordan, all the other places where Palestinians are, they are in terrible financial situation. Lebanon, etc.
PR is not so good.
It's an uphill battle. It's very hard because their propaganda is so strong, and to be honest, it's very hard to believe a lot of what they're saying there. Like the whole story with the hospital now, right?
Yeah.
Right. The whole world blames Israel for the hospital, and with the proof that's provided, and with President Biden says it's not the Israelis who did it. It's like people couldn't care less.
New York Times, apologize. Can I read just a quote that's particularly important to me as a non-Jew? This is from the 20s, and I think it's really important to all of us. It's particularly meaningful.
Where is it from?
It's from Martin Niemöller, who was a Lutheran minister. And then this goes, first they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me.
That came out of the Holocaust.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
That's when it did.
Right,
And I think
exactly.
it's very important for all of us, and particularly non-Jews, to remember this.
Right.
Rabbi, I would point out that with regard to restrictions the Israelis have on the Gaza Strip, they provide actually very little, a small percentage of the fresh water to the Gazans. The main issue with the Israelis as far as allowing material into the strip is to prevent the smuggling of weapons and fuel,
Yeah.
which can be used for rocket fuel also. So
Absolutely.
that's the way to respond. And it's not the Israelis that are like prohibiting water, food, or fuel. They're just prohibiting weapons.
Yeah, right. And again, we are at a time of war now. Israel did not deliberately target civil society, but it's not Israel's responsibility, especially not during wartime, to provide for these things. I wanted to show you the C&T group, okay, and what's going on there, because, for example, there are all these members of our congregation, so I could show you some of the videos that are going on there, so you could also join as well. For example,
So right behind me was what I thought was just a simple donation center, and as soon as I walked in, I found that it was a completely different operation.
This is a civil society crisis center, and we have 20 different departments operating here in the building.
Far bigger, far more complex, multiple story operation.
It's like a government by the people, for the people, but really.
They have an entire place they call their store built out with clothing and things for children and books. And
we're bringing nice stuff with clothes tags still on it, brand new things. It's all being organized by volunteers who are coming and just want to help.
There was a food pantry built out and a pharmacy built out.
14,000 different packages were sent from this storage. We have here everything from diapers to power banks. All the time we get equipment for soldiers. It's not a hardcore military equipment. We don't have M16 rifles in here. We send it from here, from Jerusalem, with love to the front.
The top floor of the operation is their command center. These are multiple little units, all responsible for different ends of their operation.
The department in charge of hosting. This amazing team have managed to place thousands of people in hospitality solutions. This is the department for emotional support and educational support. There are clinical social workers, psychologists, and education people.
This is an entirely volunteer-driven operation that is just immense in scale. They're offering translation services.
It's English, Russian, Amharic, French, and Spanish.
We have a department for transportation.
We have drivers volunteering all across the country.
4 hours after the initial Hamas attack, this whole complex was already in operation. Now they're running a fully operational center with, they think they said somewhere between 300 and 500 volunteers on a rotating basis at all times.
I've never, ever seen anything like this in my life. The amount of people just want to keep doing and doing and doing and doing.
It's heartwarming.
I know that my brothers and sisters down south would have been there for me if Jerusalem had a major event, and now it's our turn to be there for them. We are one country, we are strong, we are together, and we will win.
So this is, by the way, the center where our congregation donated $10,000 from the funding that we raised in that evening, and equipment of also like $13,000 of worth of equipment that my children, when they left Los Angeles 2 weeks ago, they took it with them as well. Other things that are on this is, like this liberal Jew, okay, that, like what my mother said, is like changing their tune now, and these are sort of like the things like, you should know who you're supporting.
Justice warriors out there who just want peace. Guess what? I want peace too. But loving peace, it won't save you from Hamas. I want to share with you a few stories from the victims. Something that people aren't really talking about right now is how the large majority of these victims of rape, murder, and kidnapping were peace activists themselves. These are the most open-minded, progressive group of people who love their Palestinian neighbors, and it didn't save them from Hamas. This is Shachar and Shlomit Matias.
By the way, it's Her name is Deborah. I grew up with her in my hometown, and my mother's friends, and my mother and father and our family are friends with their family. And they were just there at the Shiva. They were murdered, and we are arranging a Zoom call actually with their son because Deborah, may her memory be for blessing, fell on her son as she was being shot to protect him and make sure that he's not hurt. He got shot, but he survived thanks to her laying down on him.
They were founders of a bilingual school that taught Hebrew and Arabic under the slogan, Jewish Arab Education for Equality. When Hamas sent incendiary balloons into Israel, Shahar and Shlomit organized a peace festival, releasing balloons with messages of peace. Their 16-year-old son, who survived the massacre miraculously, recalled how the terrorists laughed as they murdered his parents. This is Chaim Katzman. He was part of Israel's group of leftist human rights campaigners and peace activists. He spent time in Palestinian farming communities advocating for their safety. He was brutally murdered at his home at Halit Kibbutz. This is the Kutz family. The father of
the Cholit Kibbutz is the kibbutz where not only Chaim Katzman is from, also Deborah and Shlomi Matthias and their son, who survived, was in that picture as well. And that kibbutz also, Congregation Ner Tamid is supporting, and we just sent them also $15,000 to help rebuild the kibbutz from the funding that we raised in that evening.
Aviv organized an annual kite festival along the fence in Gaza to show his Palestinian neighbors that we all just want to live in peace. He was found embracing his wife and children, dead in their bed in Kfar Aza, butchered by Hamas. This is Oded and Yocheved. They spent years volunteering, driving Palestinian medical patients from Gaza to hospitals in Israel. They were violently kidnapped from their home and are currently being held hostage by Hamas if they are still alive.
That's the woman that was returned yesterday. This video was done a few days before.
And let's also mention the over 250 murdered at the Tribe of Nova Music Festival. This is a festival about peace, love, and freedom. These kids were the least violent human beings. And they were massacred, they were raped, and they were kidnapped. So here's the truth that many of you don't want to see. Hamas doesn't care how much you love peace. Hamas doesn't care how much you love Palestinians. Hamas doesn't care how much you disagree with Israel's government and Israel's army. Hamas only cares about one thing: killing Jews. We are in a war right now because Hamas brutally murdered, raped, and kidnapped these peace lovers. Nobody wanted this war. If you love peace as much as these poor victims, we have no choice but to eradicate Hamas. If you can think of a more peaceful way to do that than what we're doing now, I'd love to hear it. Shalom ve'achava, peace and love. This is a message for all of the
very, very strong message. Well, this is what I'm explaining. This is all part of the WhatsApp group.
Can you explain what's the name of the group?
Where's the?
There was an email that was sent out.
Yeah, there was an email, and if you're on WhatsApp and you text me on WhatsApp, then I'll add you to the group. Okay. And now. There is here it is. Okay. WhatsApp, yeah. Okay. The office can help you. I can help you. I'm an expert on WhatsApp, so if you need help, I can help you right after this class. I can help you get into WhatsApp. There are other videos there. I'm just going to show you. Here, for example, is an Israeli scholar for the year at University of San Diego State, and what she's sharing as well is how she and her daughters stopped talking Hebrew on campus. They're very afraid, and and there are huge, massive demonstrations, and how she deals with that. This is also, again, I'm directing a lot of this to your questions, Diane, about how to answer. This here was a very good video.
There are two views of the Israeli military, what you hear in most of the media and the truth. I'm going to tell you the truth.
Colonel Richard Kemp was head of the British Army.
Commander of British forces in Afghanistan. I have fought in combat zones around the world, including Northern Ireland, Bosnia, Macedonia, and Iraq. I was also present throughout the conflict in Gaza in 2014. Based on my experience and on my observations, the Israel Defense Force, the IDF, does more to safeguard the rights of civilians in a combat zone than any other army in the history of warfare. Why is this so? Firstly, Israel is a decent country with Western values run on democratic principles.
Very important point to stress to people, to explain to people, okay? Hamas is not run on these values, okay? So it's very, also when we talk to people, to get them to identify, is like, you know, we are like you, we don't have these crazy views.
Israel has no more interest in war than Belgium does. In fact, Israel has never started a war. The only reason it ever goes to war is to defend itself. And it has to defend itself because, unlike Belgium, it is surrounded by countries and armed groups that want to destroy it. Secondly, Judaism, with its unsurpassed moral standards, remains a major influence on the citizens of Israel. I say this as a non-Jew. Thirdly,
okay, so this is why the way of my class here, and what we are trying to do is to teach these Jewish values that have brought, you know, the Western civilization also. Yes, and Jeff?
I'd like you to consider something. Yesterday on NPR, they had an expert talk about the Hamas charter. And in that charter, he talked about how, at the end of the day, Muslims will be told where the Jews are hiding to be killed. What he didn't mention was actually that's part of the Quran. And I consider in the future presenting the Quran to us so we understand what the basis for their theological thoughts are. Because if you're a Jew and you read that, I've read the Quran.
Yeah.
You would be incredibly frightened as to what they say in there about Jews.
Now there's passages saying killing infidels twice.
Yeah, right.
Is directed right in there.
Yeah, so there are different views also in the Quran, and the Quran could also be perceived with a lot of respect to Jews, actually, because the Jews are the Amen Kitab, the people of the book. And there's a lot of reverence, and there are a lot of Muslim leaders that are condemning these attacks. Their voices are not heard because they're a minority, and actually they're very afraid because they could be killed for their moderate opinions. But they try to voice themselves out. And part of what we could also do is try to strengthen these voices in the community. And instead of me coming and talking about the Quran, I think what I would bring, you know, maybe a Muslim teacher that could teach that and show us these values in Islam. You know, the problem is not, you know, with the Islam. The problem is really with these interpretations of Islam. Now, if you have you know, if it was like 1,000 people on earth, that, you know, so we would not take it such as a serious problem. The problem is there are millions and millions that hold these extreme radical opinions, and they're very active. It's not just opinions. They act according to their opinions in the most vicious way. So this is why, you know, it's not just an issue of like Islam. It's like a very radical interpretation of the Quran and Islam.
I think it's interesting that in the news does not discuss the fact that the Arab countries don't take them in. We have millions in the Jordan and Syria.
They don't want them.
Yeah,
Saudi
and they
Arabia.
want, and all they want is the right of return. So Israel becomes an
Jordan is 78% Palestinian.
Right.
That's the Palestinian country.
Right.
I mean,
and they are in refugee camps there. Yes,
they're not like
Chaya.
We were
And maybe
into other topics. Anyway, the media
everywhere is supporting the Palestinian cause and presenting them as the underdog. And Hamas is just a resistance voice to the Palestinian problem.
Yeah, so this is part of the big, media, propaganda. They're part of this. They're aids to this attack on Israel. The ability for the Hamas to get such support, world support, to this it happened on the laid ground that they laid for public opinion to allow this to happen. And it's really, I hope they also do a tshuva in that sense. Yes.
Okay, number one, I just want everybody to understand that I did everything not to open my mouth. Because it's very hard for me to explain, to tell exactly what I feel. So there are two things that I want to say. So when we just mentioned those super duper Orthodox Jews, that they go to Iran, and this is, I remember when they were going to Arafat.
Right.
But I'm afraid, I'm sorry, maybe somebody in the crowd in this room doesn't know. So this is what I want to say. This actually, why they do this? Because they think that for Israel it's too early to become a state. It's not because they're against the Jewish belief, but only because they're
anti-Zionist.
Too early.
Yeah, they're anti-Zionist.
By the way, maybe 15 years ago, somebody gave me book, Jewish book, Orthodox book, and at the end it was how they call this, tablet or something, and they were saying what's supposed to happen. So it started from Noah, and everything. Timeline, thank you, exactly, timeline. And then I said, okay, what was going to be now? And I'm looking, hegemony, this is good word.
Yeah, Gogu Magog, yeah.
Yes, hegemony.
The end of days.
No, hegemony, who is going to be superior?
Oh.
Which race supposed to be superior? Hegemony, this is
So what's the point then?
And you know who was? It was Muslims. So, and they said, okay, we have to wait so many years, and only after this. So I said, oh my God, so I live in the time when Muslims is supposed to.
Yeah.
But okay, another thing what I want to say, this is another thing what I want to say, that to be vulnerable and nice and say how peaceful, loving people we are, that we don't want war. If you talk to opposite side, I don't think this works. Absolutely not. I think what works, facts. Because the main thing is what? Land. So when you say terrorists, why you do this? They said, they conquered my land. So our answer, I think, has to be historical, where Jews as a nation we start, history. So at the same time, not only our proof who we are, I want to know about Palestinians, what they did actually. They wanted this land. So for class like this is what I wanted to know more about us Jews, how we came to this land, and I want to know what those Palestinians who are enemies to us.
Yeah.
So
okay. So
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Go ahead, Sheila.
I'm sorry. Eric Hoffer is an American philosopher,
I'm going to just briefly read a little bit of it. The Jews are a peculiar people. Things permitted to other nations are forbidden to the Jews. He wrote this in the 1950s. Other nations drive out thousands, even millions of people, and there's no refugee problem. Russia did it, Poland and Czechoslovakia, Turkey, 1 million Greeks, Algeria, 1 million Frenchmen, etc. But in the case of Israel, the displaced Arabs have become eternal refugees. Everyone insists that Israel must take back every single Arab. Other nations, when victorious on the field, dictate peace terms. But when Israel is victorious, it must sue for peace. Everyone expects the Jews to be the only real Christians in this world. I attempted to post this on Facebook. It's been a favorite of mine since the 50s, probably. I've attempted to post it on Facebook. It goes on and it goes off fast. You can't find it. You look up my name, you won't find it. And I keep posting it, and it doesn't appear.
Send it to all of us, so we should all.
Send it to all of us.
Sheila, please email that.
To all of us?
I want it too. It's Jill.
At the same time.
People also here on the Zoom are asking that
And
you
send
send
it
it.
to other Jews that you know on your
Okay.
email, and everyone
How about
bombarded at
sending
the
it
same
to
time.
non-Jews? I have.
Yeah,
Right.
now anyone that wants to join WhatsApp, okay? So you could also go on YouTube, okay? And then you could just write down how to join a WhatsApp group, okay? And it gives you here a tutorial, okay? How to join WhatsApp, how to send a WhatsApp link, okay? And this is not just how to join, okay? This is just how to use WhatsApp, beginner's guide, okay? There's 10 minutes and there's even less, okay? So you can watch these or you can ask your Rabbi, and I'm gonna also call Miriam now, who's an expert on WhatsApp, and she's gonna help all of you to join. Just one thing that's very, very important, okay? When you join the WhatsApp group, you have an option here, okay? I think the option is, let's say here you have mute, okay? So if I do unmute now, so you see this button is gone. Every time someone posts something on this group, it will alert me on my phone. It'll go like ping or whatever your sound is. That's very annoying. You don't want that to happen. Some people post very late at night. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to go to where it says mute, and you can mute it for 8 hours, for 1 week, or always. I recommend muting it always, okay, so you never get in the middle of the night messages of the WhatsApp group. So that's just the only, because then you might say, oh, this is like so annoying. I get all these messages. I want off the group. You don't have to be off the group. Just make sure it's muted. You don't get messages all the time. You can't do that to individuals. So if an individual keeps texting you messages, you could just, block them or whatever. But WhatsApp is very safe. It's encoded. It's very secure. And it helps really build a community in that sense. In Israel, it's a very strong tool. And a lot of the things that some of us share they come from Israel as well.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is the mute going to affect the sound videos that we get?
No, you can hear the videos all the time. Okay, so if you want my assistance in joining the WhatsApp group, I'll be happy to do that. And I do want to apologize though to the people who came here just to hear about the course, which will start next week. And the way we'll start. But what we're going to do is we're going to go through beyond the basics of Judaism, and we're going to take topics, okay, like Shabbat, and talk about where's the origin of Shabbat, what's the purpose of Shabbat, what are the customs of Shabbat, how does, if someone observes a Shabbat or parts of Shabbat, how does that look? Why are you permitted to do certain things or not? Then we're gonna do the same thing with keeping kosher. So it's gonna be, each of these are gonna be like mini courses, 4 or 5 weeks on Shabbat, 4 or 5 weeks on keeping kosher. Then we're gonna talk about prayer. Okay, it's gonna be 4, 5, 6 meetings, depends on, on how big each topic is. As we get closer to the holidays, like Purim, so we're gonna talk maybe 2 meetings about what Purim is, the story of Esther, what are the customs that are related to that holiday, et cetera, et cetera. So we're gonna go one by one and tackle these topics throughout the year. And if people also have suggestions and questions, please bring them. And I hope to also see you here next week. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.